This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You are watching Leicester Till I Die TV with Chris and Chums. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Pinterest. All you need for everything Leicester City FC. It's Leicester Till I Die TV.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here. Now be sure to watch Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV by subscribing on YouTube and following them on social media for all the latest Leicester City news and information. Come on you foxes!
Strap yourself in, because we're set up, switched on and ready to go.
That makes me angry. And when Dr. Evil gets angry, Mr. Bigglesworth gets upset. And when Mr. Bigglesworth gets upset, people do!
I'm going to drink a lot of beer and stay out all night.
If only I could. Good afternoon, Fox fans. I'm back again, and I'm remembering it's the afternoon now and not the evening. Bear with me because I've just come off the back of a watch-along show. Yeah, I sat through all of that. I had to talk through all of that. We lost to Prague, which over 2 legs, 180 minutes, we didn't turn up. I said we needed a performance today. I get losing. It's part of the game. You lose, you get on your bike, you go again. But do we get a performance? What was that performance? I tell you, I'm worried. You know, we've got 3 games coming up. We've got Burnley Wednesday, we've got Brighton Saturday, and we've got Sheffield United the week after on the Sunday. They should be winnable. On that performance today, we'll be lucky to get 3 points out of those games. Not only that, and this is nobody's fault, Barnes injured. He might not be back now for the rest of the season. Great with Maddison out. Evans limped off at the end as well. Injuries are getting worse. And, hey, we're not the only team in this division to have injuries. But where do we go? Are we seeing deja vu from last year? I'm not saying Brendan was to blame today. What could he do with the injuries? You looked at the team and, okay, it was a different formation, but he had to go kind of with what he'd got. Is what we've got just not good enough? Are we doing what would be happening? If I was going out with Jennifer Aniston now, we'd be punching above our weight, wouldn't we? I know I would be. And are we got to say, third still in the table, that hasn't been affected because of we're that far ahead, but we're still third in the table. But is that our true position? Are performances like today what we should be expecting? Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to ask a couple of people. Let us know your thoughts. You can watch us on the old YouTube, Leicester Till I Die TV. You can watch us on Facebook, the group, Leicester Till I Die, obviously, and Twitter and Periscope at Leicester TID. Get us live on any of those. Let us have your comments. Try to keep them clean. Let us know what you think about that performance and where we could go for the rest of the season. I'm going to add in our normal post-match chums here. We're going to say good evening and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good day, goodbye, whatever. Cover all of them. People think I've been drinking water for like 90 minutes. It's pure gin, I'll tell you. Brad, good evening, sir. How are you?
Evening, mate. Afternoon, morning. That's the most I've smiled since.
Yeah,
that's the most I've smiled since England scored.
Let's bring Julian in. Julian, do you know when it is? When is it?
I'm hoping it's the afternoon so I can have a beer.
Yes.
It's beer o'clock somewhere, Julian. Don't worry.
That's right.
I think we all agree with what Homer said. If we could, we'd go out and stay out all night drinking. I'll tell you. I'm glad you're on, Julian, because I want to come later on to our defence today. I've got a few questions about that. But let's start, Brad, first of all. The team that Brendan put out, he didn't really have a lot of choice, did he? His hands were kind of tied with who was available.
Yeah, but we've come used to know that. It's a fairly strong side. Barnes on the left, Pereira on the right, Castagne. You know, aside from obviously the inevitable obvious, which is Thomas on the left instead of JJ, you were probably thinking, even with the signing of Fofana at the start of the season, that's where we was going to be, you know, seeing them play. You know, Perez was still having questions asked over him, which he hasn't answered this season. So Pereira looked good going forward last season, and since he's been here, that was pretty much a starting lineup. And it was probably a starting lineup where you're thinking, how are we going to get Iniacho and Vardy on the pitch so they can work together? And I was confident with the lineup. I thought it was a pretty sturdy lineup. And then that happened. Everything that happened after Tielemans' goal was bad, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, Julian, we didn't really see much of Vardy and Iniacho, and I'm not going to go on a Iniacho rant here because, to be honest with you, I don't think he was any worse than any other player out there. And I think as strikers, you know, they were feeding off scraps. But for those first 10 minutes or so, up to the Tielemans goal, and he took it brilliantly. And I'm going to say this, actually. I was doing the watch-along, and Josh said to me, he said, what positives can you take from that game? And I suppose the two are, A, we didn't get stuffed 9-0, and B, the first 10 minutes. We did look all right at the start, though, didn't we?
We did. I mean, I think my complaint would be of the way, you know, the game sort of played out was that, and it seems to be against what we consider the top clubs, is that we really do sit back off them. And you give them a lot of time on the ball and they can find their way into the game. The possession stats will be great. And I've said it, I think, every time when we played Liverpool, you know, we sort of sat back off them a bit. And these teams are so good and they've got really good players that they'll just find these little pockets and cause you more problems by you sitting off than if you were sort of a bit more aggressive pressing. So, you know, I mean, the goal was awful defending by Arsenal for the centre-back not to come out and address that and let him run all the way through. And that was the bit of, like you say, really one of the few bright spots of the afternoon. So I just felt that we got the goal. It was Arsenal we were playing and we're thinking, right, let's consolidate. And it's too early to do that. But it seems that's how we set up against what we, you know, like we're always talking about the top four, the big six and all that. I know these teams are, but the Arsenals, the Man U's, the Chelseas, we've got this very cautious attitude of playing against them. And that for me was really, really evident today. And from that, I don't think we ever get a foothold in the game at any point in it. You know, the first 5 to 10 minutes was a bit scrappy, you know, to-ing and fro-ing, and then we got the goal and you think, oh, brilliant, you know, that's going to settle us right down after disappointments in the week. And then after that, I felt we were on the back foot all the time. And, you know, against Liverpool, we managed to turn it around. I mean, the second goal was a calamity, which helped. Today, we couldn't turn that around because Arsenal were on top of us. They had a better possession, scored the goals. They looked dominant in every sort of position on the pitch, which again is disappointing. And that for me was the story of the afternoon. It was just, you can't. I would say I wouldn't fault the effort of the guys. They were up against a better team today, the way that each team sets out. So there was effort there, but probably not a lot of nous, or game plan that would, bring us back into the game after we conceded the goals. Yeah,
Brad, Tielemans did take the goal well, though, didn't he? Let's talk positive for at least a couple of minutes. He took the goal well. Bad defending, but still has to be put in the net.
Yeah, it was a good goal, and like Julian said, he took that goal, and you kind of thought, "Hey, that's it. This is what we was talking about after that defeat on Thursday. This is the response. Here we go. We're gonna get this. We're gonna get a result from this. We look good." And then, like I said when I came on at half time, you remember the first game when we played them at Emirates, we defended for our lives and nicked it in the 80th minute and then saw it out. Well, it felt like we did all the right things for 7 or 8 minutes, got the goal and went, right, okay, 82 minutes, let's defend it. And it just didn't work. I mean, the goal was good. The defending, Tielemans can only run out what's in front of him. If the defender's not going to bother doing his job, then he's going to take his chance, rightly so. It was a fantastic composed finish, and please tell me, I don't, cross my heart and all that, and touch wood and everything. I hope Harvey Barnes is fine and nothing serious. But if he's under gas and air at the moment, can we get him sign that contract? Because after seeing that performance, he might want to hold off on his contract talks or ask money. Because
the bad news, Josh, is 6 weeks out for Barnes, according to Brendan. So we've no Maddison, no Barnes now, and Vardy has a calf issue that got better as the game went on. I did actually say, Julian, during that game, do you think there's any of the women players that could transfer over? Is that allowed at all?
I think the thing with Barnes, though, is it seems like it's a cartilage issue, it's a bone issue, and not, part of the tendon. So while it's 6 weeks, it's obviously a quicker repair than some of the more serious injuries you can get around the knee. So if there's a positive to take out of that would be it for me.
Should we, Julian, look at these games that are coming up? And I said at the start of the show that we know the games we've got coming up should. A few weeks ago, we'd look at and think that's 9 points. Burnley, Brighton, Sheffield United. I then said we'll be looking to get 3 points out of it. I suppose with the injuries we've got over the next few weeks, better that than playing Man City, Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, and Liverpool, I guess. But are you confident we can, get 9 points from those games?
I think mentally it's going to be quite difficult for the team because, for me, the Prague games, we should as a team have gone to Prague, and if it was a 0-0, which it was, but it should have been a dominant 0-0, which we all know it wasn't. Yeah. We didn't seem to learn and react from that when we came back, and to go out, I thought it was really disappointing. That then becomes into your mindset. Then obviously today happens where we have been outplayed all over the pitch, and then you look into the next game and you're really praying for the next good result, because the next good result will take off a lot of pressure on the players. Whereas right now, I think they'll be looking at the next game thinking, blimey, we really need to get something out of this, and if we don't, because we're expected to, because we're playing the lower teams, that's where it does affect the mindset of the players terribly. I mean, one of the good things of the teams we're playing is that Brighton are really at a low ebb as well. They have had some results lately, and I think 6 weeks ago Potter was saying how happy he was, and they weren't far away from putting some good results together, and they've had some incredibly bad results in the last couple of weeks, and they're now looking over the shoulder at can Fulham pick up a few more points, and there's Newcastle, they could get really sucked into it. So the Brighton game, they're under as much pressure as I think we'll put ourselves under. Sheffield United are fighting for their lives, but for me, they don't look like they can score a goal. I go back to the Fulham game when we played them earlier in the season, and I said we struggled against the lower end teams, but maybe now that the squad's decimated as it is, it becomes probably a bit more of a matchup. We might play a little differently, because I know Fulham in that game just sat back and we didn't seem to be able to unlock them, whereas these teams now really have to come at us a little bit. Sheffield United in particular, because if not, they're just going to be sat at the bottom of the table for the rest of the season. So. Yeah. We should still win them. I mean, the injuries now, really, we've said how well all season we've coped with all these injuries, but now it's just become to the point where we aren't going to put a strong 11 out because there aren't 11 first team, players. So, that's now is becoming a definite issue. The bench is going to get weaker, so you've got not many alternatives to look at, but should be winnable, should get through them all right. But I think if we could win the first one, there'd be a massive sigh of relief through the club, through the squad, through the supporters, through us guys, and that would help us massively.
I'm just going to bring Mark's comment up again here, if it's working. It's been very slow for me today, but yeah, he goes there. Glad when the final whistle went. I'll tell you what, Mark, I was sat there doing the watch along with Josh, and I went, another 7 minutes. I mean, I should have been thinking 7 minutes. We could still get a couple of goals, but I actually thought, oh my God, we've got another 7 minutes of this to sit through. But Brad, a couple of VAR decisions. I'm going to come to you for the first one and Julian for the second one. It wasn't a penalty, was it? Obviously.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Tillemans was right. He got the ball. And then it was looked back at. If that had gone into the box and then happened a couple of seconds after Ndidi, I don't even think that they looked at it. I think they were purely looking at the Ndidi and where the contact was. And it was right. It was outside the box. If I had to really nitpick at a fault of Ndidi's, he's a bit susceptible. And I've been thinking in the back of my mind, he's a penalty waiting to happen. And he got away with that one. And obviously Julian... we'll talk about it, but he wasn't so fortunate the second time around. But it was a free kick. But, we had one, didn't we, against... who was it against? Where we went straight... Liverpool, wasn't it? Where we had the same thing. And, we they didn't capitalise on it, but they capitalised on one later on.
Yeah.
And that's a big talking point, because I brought that up at half-time. But... yeah, the next 3 games are going to be interesting, like Julian says, and I'd take 7 points. I think the next game, you need to get that win. I don't care if it's a 3-2, 96-minute winner. I'd just get that 3 points, because these next 3 games could put a pin in the season for what we're going to do.
Stephen says here, time for the characters in the team to roll the sleeves up. The problem is, Stephen, we don't have sleeves to roll up anymore because all the guys wear short sleeve shirts. I jest, of course. Stefan, our Aston Villa fan watcher, how are you 3 doing? Not as happy as you after this weekend's games, but overall, I think we're still up here, and I think you're still below us somewhere, Aston Villa fans. So, just wind the neck in a little bit. Hey, he likes a bit of banter. Julian, do you think the club could afford a pair of handcuffs for the use on Ndidi so that he keeps his hands behind his back?
I mean, in this, because he's not so close, maybe that's why I didn't put his arms behind his back. But in this, the game as it is now, it's a clear penalty. As soon as I saw the replay, it's a few years ago you might have got away with something like that, but his arms in an unnatural place clearly blocked the ball. So it's just I don't know how players feel these days, what they do in training. When I see them closing players down with their arms behind the back, I don't even know how you do that or how that works, because it was just never ever like that. So it's a tough one, but like I said, it was a definite penalty.
I was going to make that point, Julian, is that well, I was watching the game, and Piera came running out, and this was later in the second half, with both of his arms behind his back. He was literally running like that to come out the box. But like I say, whether it's because he's a midfielder, not a defender, but indeed he just can't seem to keep his arms down. He's given away a few penalties with his hands, this season.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you'd actually work on it in training. It's one of those. It'd be a really daft sort of training session to have. But when I see it now, it's just unnatural. So when they're saying that your arms are in an unnatural position, you're using your arms to balance. So often they are just in the position they would be. That today's a bit different. He's turned his back and flung his arm in the air. I mean, maybe it's something you can't coach because that's his instincts, just to turn his back and. And I do, but I know when they're closing down, that's something that they do have to instill these days. And like I say, that is unnatural. But to close someone down with both your arms behind the back, it's puts yourself in a terrible position. But that's how they have to be these days because there is that danger. The ball's kicked against you, however near or far away, and it can be a penalty. So it's just the rules. They keep changing every year. Not always so sure it's for the better.
No, I just want to stick with you for a second, Julian, because I'm not sure if it was the first Arsenal goal or the third one. It was the one that was just the tap in.
Yeah.
Was that the second or the first or the third? I'm not sure.
It was the second one. So when Pepe ran in and cut inside Pereira.
No, it was the third. It was the third because you had the penalty. You had Luiz's head.
Yeah. It was the third. Well, when I was watching that, Julian, and I brought it up now, so I might as well stick with it. And we are talking about defence. Is their player just? There was no Leicester player. Well, there was two Leicester defenders close by him, neither of which was closing him down. I mean, we seem to be playing this zonal marking, but for God's sake, if we're going to play zonal marking, work the fucking thing out and work out where your zone is, because that guy, the Arsenal striker, he had all day.
He did, and when he ran in, some of the things that I saw today that sort of unbalanced the team. When they made the substitutions, they put a few players out of position, and I'm not sure that I agree with that. And Luke Thomas came off, and if he'd have still been on the pitch, he would have probably showed him down the line on into his left foot, which is naturally strong. And it was Pereira at the time who then showed him inside, but he cut inside quite easily. The two defensive mids weren't there, so there was a lot of space. The defenders can't really come and push him too aggressively, because if he gets through, he's into the back line. So it was a combination of things. But yeah, it did look so easy, but I think it was just a quick turnover in play, and he was away, and he's got great pace and ability. But like I say, if Thomas had been on, he'd have probably showed him down the line, and it might have had a different thing. But obviously, with the right-footed player addressing him, he decided to show him inside onto his stronger foot, but it didn't work out.
I mean, Thomas went off. I can't say he had a bad game and not say that everybody had a bad game. I mean, we're going to come on to man of the match later, but again, Brad, I was sat there watching the game, and I said to Josh, I pity Alan tonight because I don't know how he's going to pick a player out of this. And I said that against Slavia Prague. I mean, and I seem to be saying it more and more.
Yeah, look, I don't like to come out and try and pinpoint one player and say that's the whole reason we lost the game, because it's not. It was a poor. It wasn't a poor effort, but it was just a poor performance all around from a squad that's being stretched longer than a Stretch Armstrong at the moment through its injuries and through fixtures coming thick and fast. But I said to you, didn't I? If Thomas didn't come off, he was a walking red card. Pepe was having his pants down for pace on that side.
What Luke said there.
Yeah, he had his pants down. He was making silly needless fouls. One cost us. And to quickly go back to that zonal marking, I wish we could do what Sky do and bring it up, because I'd love to circle it. Soyuncu for Pepe's goal knows Pepe's behind him. Now, I know Pepe's a quick bloke, but Soyuncu's got to fancy himself with his muscle and his pace to get in front of him. So why has he got him in his rear view mirror and he's not looking at him to get him? So because I feel that Soyuncu could cut his run out there and take it out. I don't understand this zonal marking, because Soyuncu loses him. He sneaks around the back of Soyuncu, and before Soyuncu can realise it, he's 3 yards in front of him. And then if you look at David Luiz's goal, Castagna is actually stood about 3 yards off him, obviously trying to make sure if it gets come out wide, he collects it and we can counter-attack. But he's screaming and pointing a hand out, going, who's picking up David Luiz? And in the end, he tried to get to David Luiz before he could get to it, and he made the run too late. I'm just a bit concerned that we might need to change the way we do things at defending, because we looked a bit out of sorts today. I think I'd have felt, and I didn't think I'd say this, but I'd have felt more comfortable with Christian Fuchs on the left and having someone come back and do defensive work from the midfield, just because he'd have sat back defensively and not got forward. Because that's when Pepe skins you alive. Players with pace will skin you alive when you're too far forward, you're caught out of position. Yeah, Fuchs isn't the quickest, and he wouldn't have got forward, but he'd have been there to stand in front of him. Maybe that's a bit too much to ask, but for the way he played in that first half, Thomas, he got beat every time Pepe was in front of him.
Julian, are you a fan of zonal marking at all?
No, I think what you've got to look at with that, particularly coming to that goal, I mean, the one with Castagna, he's got the run on him, and the timing, there must be a bit of eye contact between Willian and David Luiz, because the timing of the run and the ball in is absolutely perfect. And if someone it was more than half a yard. We used to talk about people getting half a yard on you because they just set off before you're quite ready. He got more than half a yard, but as he set off, the ball's played. It's absolutely perfect timing. Yeah, Castagna could have done a lot better, and maybe his defenders could have helped him out more because we were a bit flat on the 6-yard line, and the ball's actually played backwards, and Luiz has actually made his run away from the goal slightly just to get into that space. So something that they will have looked at and worked on. The one with Sayuncu, I think, we were always, if we were in that position, we would literally, that body would be facing up the pitch and you'd be looking. So you can sort of glance and see what's coming, from the other side, whereas he's sort of facing the ball and hasn't got a clue what's behind him. And anyone could be running behind him, quite easily and did. And that for me is just his body shape, and that can be worked on. That's not the zonal marking or man marking. That's just your body shape. He's looking at that front post thinking, I'm going to cut this cross out, but he's not aware of what's right behind him that then gets in front of him. And, it's an easy tap in. So, that was it for me.
Brad, it's not all doom and gloom. We had a couple of really good stinging efforts that, on any other day, the goalkeeper didn't save them. They rebounded off his gloves, could have gone anywhere. But we did have a couple of chances in that first half. Yeah,
you did. We did, and you're right. It wasn't all doom and gloom. And one person I am going to pick out for a bit of praise today, it didn't come off for anybody. Was the final ball, but it didn't quite come off for him today. And he got a few passes that he tried to be a bit adventurous with. But when Cengiz had to come on for Harvey Barnes, we did look a bit more threatening when he actually got the ball. He kind of reminds me of, do you remember Mahrez' first season in the Championship, where he tried to do a bit too much, tried to do too much of the workload, but every so often would get a killer ball in and he'd get a goal. I feel like maybe we saw something like that from Under today, because he had a few cut into boxes. He stretched the Arsenal defence. My biggest issue was it took until Arsenal were in a comfort zone to Leicester look attacking, because Arsenal just sat back and went, we're 3-1 up, go at it. If you get a goal, we'll shut up shot again. But right now, you're not threatening us. And that was probably the biggest concern for us. I know we had a lot of changes. I know, obviously, Barnes, 6 weeks, it's unfortunate. But that shouldn't disrupt us enough to have completely ruled us out of a comeback in that game, or at least getting a goal to go at it.
Somebody saying there, Barnes and Nacho long-range shots, but nothing else other than that. What did you think of Under, Julian? Because I take on board what you're saying, but I was actually going to be, my next question was, has his time gone? Is he not going to be kept on, and we're going to sort of find somebody else out there better than him for that position that we're looking at him for?
I think we'll know in the next few team selections, because if he's not selected now, he's never ever going to be selected, and then you 100% know the feelings of the manager towards him. He's come on today. I agree with Brad, and it is that thing. I mean, I always thought Ronaldo, his first season at Man United, he was very hit and miss. He'd sometimes show you some brilliance, sometimes a lot of frustration. Same with, like we're talking about, Mahrez. And it might be the same with him, and he might need that run of games just to settle him in, realise what his defensive duties are. I don't think Brendan's too enamoured with, what he does when he's not on the ball. And it might be this opportunity to give him a run of games, and he can then sort of, in the back of his mind, if he knows he's going to play for the next 3 games, it can make such a difference to you as a player, rather than wondering if you're going to be in the team, Joe, with your confidence and things like that. So I would think the next team selection, if he's not starting, we know that he's not the one, and Brendan doesn't rate him, and that's his time's going to finish soon. But for me, I think you've got to play him. You've got to give him a go. I don't think he's had a fair run. Maybe that's because they're not quite sure about him. But right now, the squad is so thin. I think he's got to have a run. And at the end of the day, he can play 3 games, and if he doesn't do it for whatever reason, then we've all had a look at it. The questions that we were all asking have been answered, and that'll be that. Or we might push through that barrier, that he might have a bit, release the shackles and put in a couple of good performances, and then we think brilliant. Just like JJ coming through, that maybe we might not have expected. He could be the next one that comes through. And Harvey Barnes was not a bit player, but in and out 6 months ago, whatever it was. And now you want him on the team sheet every week. Hopefully this is his time. I can't say now, looking at him, I've not really seen enough to say, yeah, he's ready, and this could be the moment for him. But fingers crossed it is.
Brad, are we expecting too much of these players when we sign them from different countries? I mean, they're coming from outside the country. There's a lot to get used to. The Premier League is probably more faster than most leagues out there. I mean, years ago, and I'm kind of showing my age here, but I'm going to go even from Kevin Keegan coming from Scunthorpe to Liverpool. He was 6 odd months, I believe, in the reserves before he went anywhere near the first team. And I know sometimes you get the occasional one like Fofana, who you put in and they swim brilliantly. But like Julian said, Under really had his chance. Are we expecting these players to come in and hit the ground running when it's quite hard for them?
Yeah, I mean, you make a fair point, and maybe we're a bit too lost in how brilliant our transfer regime has been over the last 5 or 6 seasons, because we've barely put a foot wrong if you exclude Ranieri's spending on the likes of Somani and Musa and that weren't the greatest of success. We've had Ndidis, we've had JJs, we've got Castagne's looked solid this season, Fofana this season, Tillemans. We've developed from within. The list is endless, and maybe when one is on loan and he doesn't quite get the game time, and we're wondering why he's here, we're wondering when's he going to get his chance, is he good enough to get his chance, it's the problems. It's easier to kind of deflect the blame onto him because he's not a permanent Fox. But you never know. I mean, another one you could point that out to today, who, I'm not going to sit here and slate because it's easy to do because we've been frustrated with him. But again, Iheanacho had moments in that game. They weren't brilliant. They weren't too much notable, but they were noticeable, and he's going to get running in the team. You'd feel with his selection today, with Maddison probably could miss them 3 games. He could miss Sheffield United, Brighton, and Burnley, and if he can get a goal and get a run going, he's gonna, and Under gets a couple of assists and gets them 3 games. Because I agree with Julian, if he's not picked for the next 3 or the next 6 weeks or however long it is that Barnes is out for, that's it, and he's clearly not living up to the standards. But if you can just give these players a little bit of a run, we might just find out that we've got him. Yeah. And
Iheanacho's probably not going to get a run while Vardy is fit. But let's look at the stats. And Iheanacho has scored more goals in the last 10 games than Vardy has. Julian, I'm going to come to you with a name that Brad pulled up there, and this is a little bit of a gripe of mine, because Ahmed Musa, when we signed him, to me, very Vardy-esque. I don't know if you remember him at all, but he's out there on a free. He's not at any club. We could have he hasn't gone to I think West Brom were looking at him, but they literally hadn't got money for his wages because of everybody they bought in the January transfer window. But a guy that can come on and score 2 goals for you in his first game against Barcelona, he's got to have a chance. He was just never given a chance, I don't think. He was always played on the wing, like Cruyff used to do with Lineker at Barcelona. Stick him up front, I would have there's no transfer fee, and I said, right, here's a bit of money, come in and see what you can do for us for the rest of the season.
I think with that, I mean, I'm not over familiar with him, but he's, I think, again, if he is available and they're not making that move for him, there's got to be good reasons why. They do a lot of homework. Maybe it's a bit about the character. I mean, if someone can't go somewhere because of his wage demands and he's not at a club, I'd be questioning, what his motives are to play football, week in, week out. So it could be anything like that. Like I say, not over familiar with the guy, so shouldn't, talk badly about him. But, does he really want to play football? Would he go anywhere and get a game, which a lot of pros would these days, making big demands like that a club can't afford. It seems, and the wages that they are on are fantastic as well. So, some people want to play football, some people want to earn money.
Okay, let me throw that to you then, Brad, because you'll probably know, in fairness to Julian, and I probably did throw you in at the deep end with that question. But Brad, you know Musa. I was a fan of his when he was here. I honestly think he would have been the Vardy replacement because he plays very similar. You obviously feel free to sort of disagree with that, but like I say, no transfer fee, paying till the end of the season. At least he's a striker that we know can score goals.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point that he was put out on the left and right wing and not, which was just baffled everybody at Leicester. But I have to agree with Julian. There's a reason he's without a club. He didn't go anywhere of note, did he? He didn't leave us and go to a club of note, to my knowledge, and he hasn't been at a club of note, to my knowledge, and he's not been grabbing some European headlines. There's a reason he's a free agent. If you're talking ex-Foxes that didn't get a fair crack of the whip, I'd rather turn around in the summer and say, Hoffenheim, and what's your price for Kramaric?
That he's going to Munich, isn't he?
Is he? I see. That's what I mean.
Munich, yeah. He was another one. I think we let go. One that got away. Say.
Yeah, but see what I mean. Though he's more viable. The fact that he's at German league, he's at a German side. He's grabbing the headlines. He's grabbing goals. He's clearly playing football and wanting to play football and make the headlines, and not, like Julian said, he's not just here for the quick buck and I'll see you after 6 months sort of thing, like certain players have done in the past, not just for Leicester, all around. But if you're talking players that we let go and would maybe want a second crack to prove that's the wrong word, crack to prove Leicester wrong, that they were wrong to get rid of him and they should have stuck by him and stick it to us a little bit on the pitch. Kramaric, I'd rather go for Kramaric over Musa, but if he's going Munich, then we have to look elsewhere. At the end of the day, if Maddison
taking that point that you just made there about giving players a second chance, of course we let Ivan Toomey go, and he's been cracking them in around the place. Julian, I'm going to say then one player that came in from the cold that was out there, Tony Cottee.
Yeah.
How is it that there's always one that you can quote?
Oh, I always think that the couple of players that I remember that did well for us back then were Cottee and Marshall, who probably not other managers would have looked at bringing in. I mean, Ian did great, he could obviously sit in at centre back when needed, but we still scored the goals for us, and we were a team that we were up against it most weeks. So to get goals at that level, when the way where we were as a team in the Premier League was quite difficult, and Tony as well, he wouldn't mind me saying he was coming to the last part of his career. But great little player, and again, chipped in with a goal. So for me, they were two fantastic signings. And I've always said it before that Martin and John Robertson, the best strength to me was the players that they added to the squads. There weren't many failures in all their signings. I can think of maybe one or two, but what they brought into the squad, seemed to work out, and it also fitted in with the personalities that were already there. So they are two great examples of maybe bringing someone in that wouldn't be popular with everyone, but actually came in, fitted in, did a great job, and scored the goals.
And of course, we've got players that just to say on that point, are not necessarily big name players, like you say. We all scream for these big names, me as much as anybody else, but sometimes it's the ones, Jamie Vardy, who'd heard of him when we signed him. But we've also, Brad, got a lot of youngsters there that, Kieran Dewsbury's out on loan. We've got the young defender that we brought in from Arsenal, and I can't remember his name, bless him, he was on the subs bench today. But the youth side of it, we might not need to buy if the youth players can come in and maybe be a little bit more hungry than the full. I know we can't bring them in because we've had to name the squad and everything for the Premier League, but they're hungry, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's always a good sign to see. Like we've seen over the years, Chilwell, Thomas now, and Barnes have come through that system. They've been very reliable. We've had very good things going from there, and sometimes sometimes you can do that. And when we've got a record as we've got in recent years, I mean, that Tavernier, I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, Tavares, or however you say it, he looked good when he came on in the Europa League. I apologise for butchering these names. I think it's Daley Campbell you're on about, who's
Daley
the defender.
Campbell, that's it, yes.
He looks
I mean,
good.
Tavares, you got me at it now. Tavares, we might be missing an angel soon, because I'm sorry, he could be going. Barcelona are interested in him. If he's as good as people say, and you've got people like Barcelona sniffing around, we've got to get these players signed up, haven't we?
Well, yeah, definitely. And look, Leicester have been very good at that. I'm not really worried about someone going. Leicester aren't one to really hold someone back, but they're not someone to let them go on the cheap. So if Leicester are turning around to them saying, look, we see you as a first teamer, Barcelona sees a development. If you still want to go Barcelona, then we're not going to let you go for 30 million. I'm just throwing a number out there. I don't know what Leicester would value him as. And players have a good understanding. There's the understanding between the board saying, look, we respect that you want to go here, or if this club's interested, you'd like to join them, but you've got to respect the fact that we hold you as a value to us, so that value's got to be met. And I think because there's that clarity that seems to be between players and that maybe they buy into the fact that Leicester are going, well, we're going to need you next season. If you keep going next season, you're going to be training not with Steve Beagle. Again, I probably butchered his name. I'm crap. Oh, God. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
My screen just went. I don't know what I've done, so I'm just going to talk.
You're frozen.
Yeah, you're going to have to pardon the fact that I've frozen. I don't know what I've done. I daren't touch anything on my phone. I was trying to swipe something away. But if you give them a reason to stay in and offer them that and say, look, if this club comes in, and they meet your price, we're happy to let you go because we don't want to hold back your career and your choices. I think that's why players that we've got and have come through the ranks have decided to put their name on a Leicester City contract rather than to kind of do a Mahrez, then throw the toys out of the pram and force them move. They're happy to stay at a club that gives them a good atmosphere and a good feeling that they're looking after their career as well as their own objectives.
Let's just bring Julian in because I think Brad could probably take the rest of the show up with that answer.
Sorry.
But no, Julian, I mean, there's a lot of players out there that are in the squad at the moment. Tillemans, we're talking about a new contract for. Barnes, we've got him. We're talking about a new contract for. I'm just worried that if things fall off this season, that those sort of players, if they are approached, may well want to go. We've got to get European, Champions League football, haven't we?
Yeah, we do need that, and it always helps attracting, more players come the summer. And I think we need to be busy in that sort of transfer window. But I think the likes of Tielemans, who's been, I think he's been great this season. I think he's got that awareness about him that he's in the right place at the moment. So when he first came, there was talk of Man United sort of wanting to come in the back door and snatch him away. And he made that decision. And that decision, again, when I go back to money and football, for me, it seems like he wants to play football. The money's great, but it's a secondary thing. He knows that as long as he's performing well, he's going to be in that team. I could see him today, and we've talked about this many times. Brendan says he's his manager on the pitch, and you could see him today non-stop, pulling people around, barking orders, and he's like 23 years of age or whatever he is. So, he's a great asset for us, but I think he understands that where he is now is the best place for him. And I would be amazed if he thought he could go to a bigger club, even the Premier League, whether it was in Europe or not. But I couldn't see him going into a Premier League club and fitting in and being an ever-present. And it's like, what you want out of your career. Right now, It looks like Champions League football next year. He's a team that's knocking on the door every year, more or less, and is playing and well regarded by everyone at the club, the manager, the fans. Why people would want to take themselves out of that situation, I genuinely don't understand it. This so-called demanding Champions League and bigger wages when they're on fantastic money. He seems to me like a player who knows where he knows he's in the right spot. So I'd be surprised at that. Harvey Barnes the same, been given the opportunity by the club. He's been brought through, wonderfully, I think. And, sometimes we might see frustrations where we might have liked to see his introduction a bit earlier in the season. But then again, we trust the manager to do the right thing as you look at Pep Guardiola doing the same with Foden at Man City. He's burst onto the scene. Everybody, Man City fans, thinks he's been ready for a long, long time, and he's still not been put in. And all of a sudden he has now, but he's putting in performances that are on a par with every one of his teammates. And that, for me, is just very, very good management. And you would hope that Harvey Barnes is feeling that same kind of love from Brendan, that he's been treated right. He's probably been frustrated that he's not got a chance sooner, but he's now come into the team at the right time. Unfortunately, obviously injured today, but putting that to one side, he's come in at a time and he's made himself, one of the first 11 week in,
I
week
think
out.
as well, these players have to take a look at what happens when you leave Leicester. I mean, I think while we've got Jamie Vardy, and, a lot of people are saying this is probably next season will be his last season as the number one, and he'll then go to sort of super sub status. He's got to be telling these players, like, this is why I stayed. This is my feelings behind that. But you've just got to look at, and I know with Maguire it's turned around, and it probably will turn around for Chilwell, but he went for one manager, Lampard. He said that's why he signed for Chelsea, because of the manager. I think that's always risky with Chelsea anyway. But he's now out of favour with the new manager, Brad.
Yeah, he is. And I think Julian is absolutely spot on. And I think you get that feeling from a few of the players. I mean, you listen to Maddison and how he conducts himself with the interviews and the way he just speaks about the club. And I think, when we've seen transfer rumours at the club, and maybe had one or two names up in the, the main targets that don't seem to go away, they seem to be consistent. I think Leicester have picked their players perfectly for their personality. Now, I mean, I've only seen it on the very reliable source of Facebook, but I'm pretty sure there was a quote that Tielemans was quoted saying, this is a club that in years to come, or over the next couple of years, is definitely going to, can definitely win some silverware. And that's what I'm buying into. That's why I want to stay here. And like Julian says, if you've got players buying into what your targets are and they want to do that, I would rather assign one player a window that buys into that than 3 and 4 for big money. And just to see it, if you say this year we don't, we get Champions League football or at least a top 4 finish, if someone below us wins the Europa League, then that's sod's law. We should have done better ourselves, let's face it. But if we get a top 4 finish and maybe we beat Manchester United, we don't know we don't know, we could win an FA Cup still, let's not forget that. That will justify them. That will justify the club, and it will back the players going, yeah, this is why I stayed here. And it won't just be Vardy flying that ship. It'll be Maddison, it'll be Barnes, it'll be Tillemans, it'll be Ndidi saying, I'm just going to
bring this in here, Brad, because it's just breaking news that's just been put up on the BBC. Harvey Barnes is going to need surgery on his knee.
Oh, well, that's what it is. We knew when we saw the stretcher and the knee brace come on, and I'm not religious, but I was praying to God it was only going to be a couple of weeks. It looks like it's worse than what it is. It is what it is. We've got to go for it. And like we talked about earlier in the show, now this is where we're going to see either Under gets picked and he takes his chance with both hands and proves those that have questioned him wrong, or we see someone else on that side. And we understand why Under's on loan and there's been no push to get his deal permanently. So we just got to cope with it, like we have every injury.
Julian, looking at the match, and we'll bring up here, this is what Alan, the stat man, has gone for. Yuri Tillemans, and it must have been a hard decision to pick somebody, but possibly just for his goal and just maybe for his leadership qualities, gets man of the match. Manager 5. I mean, like I say, I don't know what else Brendan could have done with who was available. And, by the way, Tottenham are 4-0 up against Burnley, by the way, just as a sideline. Just get them annoyed before with the players. Thanks, Spurs. But he's given the team 5. Agree, not agree?
Not on the 5 for the manager. Like I say, he's sort of backed into a corner. I mean, there's a lot. I've seen a lot on Facebook this week about when we lose against Prague and how everyone the armchair supporters come out and criticise the manager and it's doom and gloom. But literally on when the team came out midweek, I just thought, oh, no, that's not good for me. Barnes not starting. And you've got like Pereira and Castagna on the bench. It really made me wonder why. But today's a totally different day and really limited in choices of what he could do. So I think the 5, on that mark just comes from, a pretty flat performance all round, and it just brings your mood right down thinking about the game as a whole. So I'd give the manager more than that, and I'd probably give the players more than that, maybe a 6, just because I don't think it was a lack of effort. I think it was more a lack of application. It's and like you say, for me, fairly impossible to pick anyone who actually stood out. And I went, oh yeah, actually, out of all the averageness, this one actually popped up, and I thought did really, really well. And I think I might agree with Tielemans because, like I say, I do see his leadership qualities. He took the goal well, but they're brief things in a game. And when you're looking at a man of the match, you want to see them for 60, 70 minutes doing something good. And we didn't see that from anyone today. So tough pick for man of the match, and probably agree with that.
Yeah, I'm going to say hi to Rich Sports there. Still hoping we make the top 4 over Chelsea and Liverpool, but he still asks, are they going to get the shit out of us in the FA Cup? He's a Man United fan. Rich, we will have a chat about that in a couple of weeks when we do when you come on the preview show with me, or opposition view show with me, which hopefully you can still do. And it's a cup game. It's a cup game. Let's not forget, Man United, at the start of the season, you were somewhere way down below Arsenal, then you could, as quick as you come up, you can go down as well. Tony, a bit of tongue-in-cheek here. Pity that Mari Gray's been sold. Well, let's move on. Brad, agree with, and we're going to come on this last question, and then I've just got one last question to ask before we wrap it up. Tielemans, man of the match for you?
Yeah, I think I have to agree with pretty much anything that Julian's just said there, because it's one of them performances that you have to pick a man of the match, and I can't. The only reason I can see why Alan's had to give a man of the match is because Tielemans scored a goal, and he did command he did command the game well. Like I said, it was a lack of application and effort. And when a result's bad, it's easy to go right. Manager gets the blame, players get the blame. 4s, 3s, 0s, 2s, and 1s, and a lot of other channels do that straight off. Arsenal fans too. One, we won't mention it's very famous for it. They're probably getting 10s today on that channel. But, given the circumstances, given everything that came in Brendan's way, he might have been looking at Gorilla Glue and sticky tape to try and hold the team together at one point when he was putting his team together. So, actually, sometimes we sit here and go, oh, when we've had a good performance, we've gone, oh, he's given us 7. That's a bit harsh. Could be an 8. I think today's been a bit harsh for the same reasons. I actually think there wasn't a lot different in the lineup that anyone could have thrown together than what Brendan did. Yeah. And like I said, I think the effort was there. It's just like Julian said, the application wasn't, and the players just couldn't get themselves going. It seemed to just have that engine wouldn't tick over. So I think 6s would have been fair on a fair shout. And yeah, Tielemans man of the match.
Julian, and this is going to be the last question to both of you, so I'll come to you first, Julian. The season we've had, with the injuries, with the playing on 3 fronts, because we pretty much went out in the league. Well, we did go out in the League Cup at the first hurdle. Last 32 of the Europa League. Let's say Man United kick us out of the FA Cup, and let's say on current form we slip and we finish 6th and out of Europe. Would that still be classed as really disappointing, but would that still be classed as a good season, or would that be a bad season?
It wouldn't be a good season because of the position we're in. I mean, I think if in the next few games the injuries really do, you can sort of really say 100% the injuries are a direct detriment to, team selection and performances, then there's a reason for that. We've still got a decent cushion to West Ham, who are doing well, but, they've got tough games as well. So, to answer the question, I think it would be a bad season if we dropped out of everything. But again, that's the expectations of us and what we've achieved so far in the season. And, you'd like to think, there was a comment earlier about the characters coming out. Well, the characters are dropping left, right and centre, unfortunately. But there are still 1 or 2 remaining. If we can feed back a few of those, lesser injuries in the next 3 or 4 weeks, hopefully, and sort of get back to something. And it's probably good time in the 3 games we've got, and not to be disparaging to the 3 teams that we have got, but they are below us in the league. Potentially, we should really full strength go and beat them, which really we should still be getting results, like Brad said, 6 or 7 points out of the 3 games. And at the moment, we're just in that bit of a lull as fans, watching the injuries add to that, the performances add to that, and we're sort of a couple of months ago we were all real chipper, but right now it's just at this moment in time you can sort of sense the doom and gloom, and we need to lift ourselves out of that. Maybe we'll go and have a glass of wine after we've finished here today, and think that we're going to get the 3 points on Wednesday, and everything will be okay. And if we do, it will. We'll then go into the next game after that, on the front foot again, and we'll all be a bit more chirpier. So next 3 games are big. I think we've got a great chance of getting some good results against the teams that we're playing. Maybe the other side of that, the injuries start to come back, and you know what, we could have a real strong finish to the season. So fingers crossed and hopeful for that.
Brad, let's ask you. So, like I say, just and I'm not decrying us, but we're Leicester. We're not Man City. We're not Liverpool. We're not Man United. For us, finishing 6th, just missing out on Europe. We got through to the last 32 of the Europa League. We're into the FA Cup quarterfinals. Would that be such a bad year?
Yeah, it would be a disappointment. I'm sorry, it just would be. It would be. If you can match,
Disappointing, definitely, but like I say, bad for us.
Yeah, it is bad for us because it's a step backwards. At the end of the day, you want to get strong and you want to get used to these European competitions. Well, guess what? You need to be in there every year to do that. You need to keep doing it. And even if Leicester finish 5th, it'd be disappointing, but it'd still be seen as a positive, especially if someone goes on a big run. At the end of the day, you've got to remember other teams are facing us. The one thing and a big positive that can come out of this game is maybe if you take the situations at least 2 of the 3 clubs are in right now, they might just play into our hands. Because one thing that I did say early in the show that, all right, it was 3-1 and it was practically game over at that point. But Arsenal started to play in our hands because they let us attack them and they were a bit more open because, they took the foot off the gas for whatever reason. But that's when Leicester actually showed some attacking intent. And probably our next 3 games, like Julian said, we're playing sides that you do have the expectancy. We do take the injuries on board, but they're probably going to play into our hands a little bit. They're probably going to be a bit more open. They're not going to be as organised and as ship-shape as Arsenal. I think Brighton have had 75 chances, scored 1 goal in the last 3 games. It is literally something ridiculous like that. They've scored 1 goal in like 3 or 4 games. So they're not going to be full of firepower. It's obviously not ideal having Barnes out. It's not ideal having Vardy not at 100%. It's not ideal. But these players that have been sat in the cold, like you said, that are getting the chances over the next 3 games, if they really take them chances by the scruff of the neck, these could be the sort of teams that we want to be playing. And let's not forget that unlike last season where Manchester United put a run of results together, Manchester United were at least on like a 6-7 game winning streak at this point. Chelsea and West Ham are still dropping points. They've still got hard games to go. I'd like it to be in our hands, but if you said to me, Brad, we're going to fall away, we're going to go out to Manchester United in the Cup, fair dues, I can take that. It's Manchester United, they're a hard side. But then we're going to drop to 6. I'd say it's a bad season, and then I think the pressure is on Brendan Rodgers if we finish 6. There's no reason we should drop out the top 4, because let's not forget, regardless of today's result, we're now, even if Liverpool win their game, which is one of the bigger clubs I'm more worried about catching us, would still be 6 points ahead of them. And like I said, if the next 3 games we get 6 or 7 points out of it, I think that worry it goes, doesn't it? It goes, and we're back to calm, normal order and top form, gets more secure again. And
Brad, I needed to upload something there, which is why I asked you the question, because I knew you talked long enough for me to be able to upload something.
You can hire me for a job or anything. I can talk.
The guy says there, any news on Barnes, just look at the bottom of the screen, and that's the latest news there. I've actually got, I actually have a video of Julian and his wine here, because apparently this is how he sort of commiserates when we lose, if this is going to work. I'm not sure. There we go.
I think Julian's taking the small one as well, ain't you, Julian?
That is definitely the size of a glass of wine that you need after that performance, is it not, Julian?
Absolutely. That's how we drink wine up north.
Not like these southern softies. Just a little wine glass. Hey, Julian, Brad, thanks very much for joining us. Unfortunately, it wasn't good times. I was hoping to get an Arsenal fan come on, but he's had to go off and do his own show. So probably we got away with that one. Midweek game, well, it might be a bit late for you, Julian, but we'll have a chat before.
No, Julian, Brad, if we lose, you've got to come on and save me, because I won't be able to stop myself. I need a professional head next to me and Chris.
I'll do the best.
When he's on his own, Julian, and I am totally unprofessional, I rely on everybody else just to make me kind of, sound reasonably good. But like I say, we just if we lose and it's just Brad on his own, he just rants for 2 hours, and then that's
Chris forgets to switch the camera off, and I'm still talking.
No, and he stays in the room at the bottom, and he's still talking away. He doesn't know it's been taken out. Guys,
I don't leave StreamYard until the next game.
Yeah. Guys, it wasn't a good performance, but hey, at the end of the day, there's worse things going on out there in the world at the moment, and we're all well, and we've all got our health, and at the moment, that is the main thing. That's the positives. Julian, thanks very much, mate. All the best to you and your family. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, Julian.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Cheers. And Brad, thanks very much, mate. And I will see you on Wednesday. And
I'll see you Wednesday.
Let's hope that we're going to at least be talking about a win.
Well, I mean, it's one of them, innit? You got to let the dust settle now. We've got to take a deep breath. We've got to see what happens and just hope for it. I mean, if I'm right in thinking, the next 3 games, 2 of them out of the 3 are away.
Yes,
I can't believe I'm saying this, but with our form away from home, I'm actually relieved. That gives us more of a positive. I think we've won 9, drawn 3, and lost 1 of our away games. So if we can keep that form up, I'll be happy with our next couple of games being away from the power.
Well, fingers crossed that it's going to be happier times. Brad, thanks very much, mate. I'll see you on Wednesday night.
I'll see you then, mate.
Your cocoa out.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I'll pitch a tent. I'll get it ready. Get the marshmallows.
Cheers, bud. Take care. Stay safe.
And you. Take care.
Thanks to everybody for joining us this evening. And it is now evening. No, it's still afternoon. Honestly, I can't keep up with where the bloody hell I am. We lost. My mind's gone. That's all I can say. Look, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for joining in. If you want to catch up with this, give us about 15 minutes and it will be up on your podcast platform, whether that be Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, or Google. We will be there. We are going to be back tomorrow night, Monday night, 7 o'clock. They're coming thick and fast. Maybe a bit too quick for Leicester at the moment, but we're going to be back 7 o'clock. We'll be talking to a Burnley fan from the Turfcast podcast ahead of the game. And then on Tuesday at 7, myself and my chat chum Craig, and we'll be looking and previewing the game itself. Go and get a drink. I'm not eating all day. I am starving. I could eat a horse. If you buy from Iceland, you probably do. Thanks very much, guys. Try and enjoy what's left of Sunday. And I will see you tomorrow night at 7 for the Opposition View show. Stay safe, guys. Don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy. Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Hello, Matt Elliott here. Be sure to watch Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and follow all their social media platforms for all the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Leicester Till I Die podcasts on the Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Anchor, and all podcast platforms.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.